College football, week 6 prediction time. We got Georgia Tech taking on the Miami Hurricanes. Y'all boys know I'm rolling with my Hurricanes. People don't know if I'm a Colorado fan or a Miami Hurricane fan. I'm a fan of both. I'm a fan of Deion Sanders, so I'm a root for anywhere Deion Sanders goes. And I'm also going to ride or die for my Miami Hurricanes. And we're really good this year. And it really surprises me. Because, I came into this season with fairly low expectations for Miami. Because anytime I get high expectations for this squad, they always let me down. And I refuse to let another year go by where I put my trust and faith into the Hurricanes being able to make something shake and they let me down. But this season, though, they may surprise me. When I least expect this team to do anything, it's the year where they actually do something big. Crazy. Red River Shootout, Showdown, wherever you want to call it. Oklahoma versus Texas. I'm taking Texas, man. I think this game is pretty easy to decide. I'm not really picking Texas because Oklahoma hasn't played anybody. Because here's the problem with that argument. When you say Oklahoma hasn't played anybody, you make it seem like Texas is just going to run away with this game. This is a rivalry game. And rivalry games, regardless of who has the talent advantage, normally tend to be pretty close. And if Oklahoma is the team that we expect them to be, the second best in the Big 12 because they are the second team that's favored to win this conference behind Texas, then they shouldn't get blown out in this game. And plus, you got Dylan Gabriel healthy. You didn't have him healthy for this game last year. You had Eric Gray out there running Wildcat quarterback. And as soon as I saw that shit as soon as I saw Oklahoma come out last year running that Wildcat offense, I knew they was about to get whacked. Dylan Gabriel, I think he's pretty solid. This play calling on the offensive side of the ball by Jeff Lebby, it can be a little bit questionable at times. But I think what's really going to be able to keep Oklahoma in this game is going to be their defense. But the reason why I'm taking Texas is because, Texas just has one of the best teams in college football this year. I really think this is Texas' year, but I expect this game to be close. And you guys are going to see tomorrow when I do my score predictions and my picks against the spread how I truly feel this game is going to go. We got Maryland taking on Ohio State. I'm taking Ohio State to get the win. Maryland has to play them on the road this year. Yeah, they were pretty competitive when they played Ohio State last year. They did have some moments in that game, like that blocked field goal where they looked like maybe they could have pulled off the upset. But the problem with Mike Locksley and Maryland is that, against these teams like Ohio State or Michigan, when they end up being close, Maryland just doesn't know how to win close games against top teams. They don't know how to finish teams off. That seems to be the problem with Mike Locksley. And, if he's going to get a win this year against a big-time team, I don't think it's going to come against Ohio State. I just think that Maryland, their defense has been such a big question for the last couple of years. They haven't really had a top-level defense, and you got to be able to get this offense off the field. And I don't know if Maryland is all that great up front. And if you don't have neither one of those two things, I don't really think you have a great chance at winning. Now, you do have Talia Tagovailoa, Tua's little brother, at quarterback. I like him a lot, but you got to do more than just be able to score points on offense. Ohio State's defense is not the same defense that you went up against last year. Jim Knowles, this defense actually is as good as what we expected it to be coming into this season. And if Maryland can't really get anything going offensively, I'm going to have a hard time seeing them getting too many stops on defense. So I'm easily going to take the Ohio State Buckeyes to win this game. I don't really think there's a big chance of an upset happening here. I understand why people are hyped about Maryland because they're a team that, with the win against Ohio State, that could be their breakthrough win that propels them into that next level. Because the Big Ten could easily be a 4-team conference and not just the 3-team conference that it has been for the last couple of years. If Maryland can finally break through and they could win this game against Ohio State, you could finally put them in that top echelon of teams in the Big Ten. But for right now, I just think that they're always going to be in the tier 2 of teams until they can get better up front. We got LSU taking on Missouri. this is a game that I wanted to preview tonight, but I didn't have time to get to it. I like LSU to bounce back with the win, even though they are playing on the road at Missouri. Missouri already has a big win against Kansas State that they got a couple of weeks ago. This is one of the better teams that Missouri has put on the field in a very long time. And I may say this is the best Mizzou team that I've seen since 2014. But LSU, I think they got a lot to prove this week. They have a lot of added motivation due to the disappointing loss that they suffered to Ole Miss last weekend. They got a lot banking on this game. You know, they lose this game, they possibly could be out of the mix to win the SEC or make it to the SEC championship game this year. So they really need to win this game if they want to try to keep their chances of making it to the conference championship game alive. Now, Missouri, on the other hand, you know, you're trying to stay undefeated. LSU already has 2 losses, and you're trying to say, you know, why can't we make it back to the SEC championship? A place that this program hasn't been since they kind of first joined the SEC, which is crazy to say. So I'm going to take LSU to get the win. I don't think Missouri's defense is good enough to get a lot of stops on LSU's offense. Now, Missouri's going to put points up on LSU's defense because this is the worst secondary that LSU has had ever, at least in my whole entire lifetime, and they call themselves DBU. Well, I don't see any DBU-worthy defensive back starting for LSU in that secondary right now, okay? But Missouri, I do think they're going to be able to compete in this game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I like LSU. 42-35 is my final score prediction. Now, we got Washington State going on the road to take on UCLA. I like Washington State. Washington State, Cameron Ward has been playing some incredible football. I don't know if I can still call him underrated anymore because people are now starting to catch on to how good he is. And when I look at Dante Moore, I mean, bro looked awful against Utah. And I do know that Utah has a very good defense, but in that game, UCLA just looked like they were completely lacking talent on the offensive line, at wide receiver. I don't really think that this is a great UCLA team on offense. Defensively, I think that they are really good. But against Washington State, I don't really know if I have a lot of confidence that Dante Moore is going to be able to play well enough to keep up with Washington State and Cam Ward in this offense. That's why I got to go with Washington State with the win. Florida State, they should take care of Virginia Tech. Although Virginia Tech kind of has started to look a little bit better over the last couple of weeks. You got Kyron Drones in that quarterback now. He didn't win the quarterback competition initially, but he has a lot of potential. Really great athleticism, insane size. Look out for him in this game. If FSU struggles, it's mainly going to be because Kyron Drones ends up having a big game. But I'm still taking FSU to get the win. I do think that they're going to blow out Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, they still got a ways to go. This program is in rebuild mode, but if they could keep it close for the first 3 quarters and then maybe FSU pulls away in the 4th quarter, I think that'll be a good moral victory for Virginia Tech. Even though they are trying to win this game, but you're on the road playing in Doak Campbell Stadium. FSU, I know they haven't played some of their best football, or at least they haven't played at the level that they did against LSU, but I just don't think that Virginia Tech just has the talent to hang around with FSU this year. I'm taking Texas A&M over Alabama. We kind of already previewed this game. If you guys haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. Texas A&M, I just think that they have way more reasons for why they should win this game than what Alabama has to win it. Texas A&M, they got a really good defensive line. They have a fantastic pass rush. Alabama has a terrible offensive line, or at least an offensive line that's struggling at the moment. And plus, they don't have consistent quarterback play. Jalen Milroe, he's a really good athlete, but he isn't the best passer. He can hit you with a couple of deep balls every once in a while, but he doesn't hit it all that consistently. And for Alabama, I think they can only win this game one way. Great defense, being able to be a physical team and run the football with a lot of effectiveness. Texas A&M, It's like they can beat you anyway. They got a great defense also. If this is a low-scoring game, they can win it. If it ends up being a high-scoring game some way, somehow, Alabama's offense can find a way to break 30 in this game, Texas A&M can keep up with them. But for the most part, I expect this to be a low-scoring affair. Alabama has a really great defense. Texas A&M, their offensive line is pretty good. Their offense has been clicking this year, but Alabama's defense has been all world this year. And that's what has allowed Alabama to hang around in a lot of games that they've been in. And why they avoided the upset against USF. If they didn't have as great as a defense as they have had this year up to this point, they probably have 2 losses up to this game or going into this game. But this defense has been really good. They shut down Ole Miss. So the fact that they shut down Ole Miss shows you that this is a legit defense. Ole Miss put 55 on LSU's defense with no problems. And Ole Miss has one of the best offenses in college football, and Alabama held them to only 3 points. But they're playing on the road in Aggie Land, College Station. You know, the last time Texas A&M beat Alabama, it was at home. I believe they did it with a quarterback named, what was his name? Zach Calzada, I think. I think he was the backup quarterback at that time. But I just think that Texas A&M, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to beat Alabama this year. I think they just are a better team than Alabama this year. And I think that Jimbo gets his big signature win for Texas A&M this year that really gets people back on the Texas A&M bandwagon, because people seem to forget that most people prior to this offseason normally have Texas A&M being one of those dark horse college football playoff picks. And if there was ever a year to be excited about Texas A&M's chances of being able to win the SEC and make it to the playoffs, it would be this year. They got a talented roster. They had a talented roster last year. The only thing that held them back was the coaching. I think Texas A&M takes care of business at home against Bama. I'm taking UNC against Syracuse. Like, I got this rule that anytime Syracuse plays against a good Power 5 opponent, or at least a halfway decent Power 5 opponent, I'm taking them to lose. Dino Beavers, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I do know that his first name is Dino. I don't think he's that great of a coach. Now, they are, 4-1 right now, but we saw them lose to Clemson last week. And Drake May in North Carolina, I'm not really high on this team. You know, I think that North Carolina right now is the most overrated team in college football. We talk about how Colorado wins games with Shedeur Sanders and not really having a lot of players around him to pick up the slack outside of a couple of good receivers. That's kind of the same situation that Drake May is in with North Carolina. The only difference between him and Shedeur is that Shedeur's offensive line sucks and Drake May's offensive line is pretty solid. Now, UNC's defense kind of has stepped it up this year. Surprisingly, I thought this school would never learn how to play defense. But Syracuse, you know, I expect them to get blown out in this game. Dino Barbers, however you pronounce it, I don't think he's a good coach. And Syracuse, just anytime I see them going against a Power 5 team, they just don't really play great football. And they already lost to Clemson. And I don't know why people make it seem like every time Syracuse and Clemson play, oh, you got to look out for Syracuse. You know, Syracuse always plays Clemson tough. Like, I like UNC to win, even though they're overrated. Now, we got Kentucky taking on Georgia. I'm taking Georgia to win. All right. If Devin Leary learned how to play quarterback at a high level again, the same way he did when he was playing for NC State before he transferred to Kentucky, Kentucky possibly could win this game. And they got a very good chance to do so. If Devin Leary just wakes up and remembers that, hey, like, I used to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football at one point, and he reawakens, Georgia could be in a lot of trouble in this game, even though they are playing at home. Because Georgia, you know, they struggled against Auburn last week. Auburn went for 200 plus on them on the ground. And we saw what Ray Davis did. So even if Kentucky has success on the ground, they still need Devin Leary to play better than what he has had played up to this point. And he's been a really big disappointment. I'm taking the Bulldogs. I got Michigan over Minnesota. Man, like, Minnesota has burned me so many damn times this season, man. Like, I thought they were going to be able to pull off the upset against North Carolina, and these clowns couldn't even freaking cover. They don't got no offensive line. They got an awful quarterback. Their defense is okay, but Minnesota is probably going to get the boat rolled on them. Michigan should go into Minnesota and sink the boat. Because, I mean, Minnesota, that quarterback they got back there is garbage. Absolute garbage. I got Notre Dame over Louisville. This game was really close in terms of who I wanted to pick because Louisville has Jeff Brom, and I don't think a lot of college football fans are really familiar with the upset master. There's a reason why they call Jeff Brom the upset master. And if you don't remember who he is, do you remember that year when Purdue beat Ohio State led by Dwayne Haskins at home? And that pretty much was the loss that kept Ohio State from making it into the playoffs that year. Jeff Brom was the head coach of Purdue that season. Not just is he 3-1 against top 5 teams, but he's 7-11 against AP top 25 ranked opponents. So this dude definitely has earned the name or the nickname, the upset master. But I believe that Notre Dame is going to be able to pull this off just because I believe that Notre Dame is a really good team this year, and good teams find ways to win, especially on the road. Arkansas is heading on the road to take on Ole Miss. This is a really underrated game, right? Because Ole Miss is riding high. Lane Kiffin pretty much got the biggest win of his head coaching career down there at Ole Miss. And they're going up against an Arkansas team that right now, they're kind of reeling. They're on the ropes. And there's a possibility that Arkansas could fall to 2-4 with a loss in this game. Now, the play calling for Arkansas has been awful. You can't expect nothing special out of Dan Enos. This is coming from a Hurricanes fan, so I feel your pain, Arkansas fans. But they still got KJ Jefferson. Now, KJ Jefferson, he hasn't looked like the same quarterback that he has looked like in the past. He's turned the football over more. He doesn't really look all that great as a passer this year. He kind of is having a down year. And Ole Miss can hang a lot of points on you offensively, and Arkansas doesn't have a damn defense. Now, Ole Miss doesn't have a damn defense neither, but Ole Miss, I'll take them to win just because I trust the play calling more than I trust the play calling for Arkansas. Like, Arkansas with Dan Enos at the helm at offensive coordinator, they're liable to call some stupid shit when the game is on the line with him being the OC, and I just don't trust it. And as much as I love Arkansas fans, and I was tempted to pick Arkansas to win this game, not with that play calling and not with that defense. I'm sorry. You're not about to get me, man. I'm taking Ole Miss to win this game. Now, the last games that we got to talk about, we have Fresno State taking on Wyoming. This is interesting because Wyoming, they've been a pretty competitive team anytime they've gone up against Power 5 opponents, such as Texas Tech. They beat them early, and they were getting right with Texas for one half. Fresno State, they look like a juggernaut. They look like the best G5 program in college football right now, at least for this season. And they got a high-powered offense. I'm going to take them to win this game. Oregon State is taking on Cal. I like Oregon State, even though DJ Uiagalelei, like, I'm not really the biggest fan of his. You know, like, I just don't think he's all that great, but he should be good enough to get it done against Cal. Arizona on the road against USC. Arizona has a great offense. Like, their backup quarterback came in and replaced Jaden Delore, and he was shredding. Who was they playing last week? I can't remember who Arizona was playing last week, but he was doing some damage last week. I believe it was Washington, if I'm not mistaken. Washington played Arizona, and their backup quarterback, he was absolutely cooking against the Huskies defense last week. And if he can replicate that same performance this week against a USC defense that gave up 41 to Colorado, this could be a game that possibly could be a little bit of an upset. Jeff Fish definitely has his Arizona program on the up and up, and they could be a team that could be a bowl-eligible program. I'm still picking USC to get the win, though, because they got that man Caleb Williams at quarterback, and I'm never going to go up against Caleb Williams, at least when they're going up against a team like Arizona, because Arizona, defensively, I don't think they're going to get too many stops. Now, USC's defense, I don't think they're going to get a lot of stops in this game neither, but I definitely think that they possibly are going to get more stops than what Arizona's defense is going to be able to get. Because when you're going up against Caleb Williams, unless you just got a star-studded team, you're not going to be able to get this man off the field for no more than maybe 1 or 2 possessions if you're lucky, if he throws an interception or fumbles. So I like USC to win. I think this is going to be a really high-scoring game. 48-28 is my final score prediction for that one. And then I got my Colorado Buffaloes over Arizona State. Colorado may not win this game super convincingly because even though it seems like they have a way better team than Arizona State, they're still not a more superiorly talented team than Arizona State. And Arizona State did put some points up on USC when they played. So I think Colorado wins this game 34-17. I think this game could be a little bit challenging for Coach Prime and the Buffs. But this is it for my college football week 6 picks and predictions. Let me know what you guys think about them down in the comment section down below. Now we're moving on to our